Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodhanandana Brajajanarandana. Jasodhanandana Brajajanarandana. Jamana Tiravana Chadi. Jamana Tiravana Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jasodhanandana Brajajanarandana. Jasodhanandana Brajajanarandana. Jamana Tiravana Chadi. Jamuna Tiravana Chadi. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayom Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Astatarasya Srimad. His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're going to cover 4 verses this morning and chant text 10. Canto 10, chapter 26. Hatva rasabha daiteyam. That's different. Which one is it? I'm chanting 10. 7. Okay. Kavachit dayan gava stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab apatayat. Kvachitai yangave stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab apatayat. Kvachitanya gave stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab upatayat. Kvachit dainyan gava stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab upatayat. Kvachit dainyan gava stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab apatayat. Kvachit dainyan gava stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Bahubhyam tab upatayat. Kvachit dainyan gava stainye. Matra baddha udukale. Gachan arjunayor madhye. Kvachit once. Hai yangava butter. Stainye engaged in stealing. Matra by his mother. Baddaha bound up. Udokale to a large mortar. Gachan moving. Arjunayoho the twin Arjuna trees. Madhye between. Bahubhyam by his hands. Tau apatayat he made them fall. Translation. Once his mother tied him with ropes to a mortar because she had caught him stealing butter. Then, crawling on his hands, he dragged the mortar between a pair of Arjuna trees and pulled them down. And the purport here in Bhagavatam, the two Arjuna trees were old and thick, and they towered above little Krishna's courtyard. Nevertheless, they were pulled down quite easily by the naughty child. I'm going to do this a little differently. There's several verses coming up, but there's commentary, so I'm going to just go through one by one. And here we go. Nice to have these commentaries, huh? Compliments of Bhanu Swami. So here's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, one sentence. How could he, who was tied up because he had stolen butter, crawl around and knock down the two Arjuna trees? This is their astonishment. Jiva Goswami. The word kvachit, very beginning here, means once. It should be understood that in the verses following, this should be understood in the verse following as well. Moving by his hands, bahubhyam, he made the tree fall. This indicates that a lot of strength was needed to pull the mortar. Again, Vishwanath. Here, the cowherd men mean to say, quote, how could Krishna, who was tied up for stealing butter, crawl away and knock down a pair of Arjuna trees? Jiva Goswami. By moving by his hands, he made the tree fall. This indicates that he did not need much strength to defeat his enemy Indra. It's in reference to the previous chapter. And he who has so much strength that he can knock over two Arjuna trees when he's a little boy, what is it? What's the problem in defeating the strength of Indra? And then text 8, the BBT translation. Another time, there's no mention of Kvachit, but another time, when Krishna was tending the calves in the forest together with Balaram and the cowherd boys, the demon Bakasura came with the intention of killing Krishna. But Krishna seized this inimical demon by the mouth and tore him apart. No purport, but there is commentary. Vishwanath writes, how could he take the mouth of a Baka demon and, starting with the mouth, tear him in two? Jiva Goswami. He tore apart Baka in the presence of Balaram and the other boys. This shows his strength was greater than that of the others with him. He tore him apart, starting from the mouth. Baka was an enemy because he desired to kill Krishna at any opportunity since he was born in Tamas. But he was especially eager to kill Krishna since Krishna had killed his sister, Putana. Baka was actually killed after Vatsasura. The order is incorrect. Since the people were overcome with great astonishment, this will be done in later verses as well. And then further Vishwanath commentary. Here the cowherd men mean to say, how could he hold the beaks of the Baka and bifurcate them? So two more verses, text 9, BBT translation. Desiring to kill Krishna, the demon Vatsa disguised himself as a calf and entered among Krishna's calves. But Krishna killed the demon and, using his body, enjoyed the sport of knocking kapita fruits down from the trees. Jiva Goswami. The demon desired to kill Krishna along with Balaram. Krishna killed him casually, and by grasping his feet and whirling him around, made fruit fall from the tree. His great strength is indicated from throwing the demon into the treetop. And although this is chapter 26, there's reference in Jiva Goswami's commentary on the 10th canto, going back to chapter 11. So I'm just going to read. This is the killing of the Vatsasura demon, chapter 11. Krishna caught the demon by the hind legs and tail, twirled the demon's whole body very strongly until the demon was dead, and threw him into the top of a kapita tree. The huge demon fell down along with the fruits from the tree. He grabbed the demon so he could He grabbed the demon so he saw the tail, since he held him by the hind legs. He grabbed his tail along with his hind legs and twirled the demon around. The object, quote, the demon, is in the previous verse. He threw him on top of a kapita tree, since the fruits would fall and they would be used for throwing in games. Though he twirled the huge demon around, Krishna did not move from his place. The demon, with a huge body, fell down. On being killed, because his illusory powers disappeared, he showed his huge demoniac body. It is mentioned that the kapita fruit also fell, because later it is said, gives the Sanskrit, Krishna killed the demon and, using his body, knocked kapita fruits down from the trees for use in playing, which is referenced in this chapter 26. It's not in chapter 11, the knocking of the kapita fruits. The word ha expresses astonishment. That's the mood. That the small boy could throw the huge demon against the huge tree. Now finally, text 10, translation BBT. Together with Lord Balaram, Krishna killed the Rasabha, the jackass demon, and all his friends, thereby securing the safety of the Talavan forest, which abounded with fully ripened palm fruits. BBT purport. Long, long ago, the powerful demons Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were born of the goddess Diti. Therefore, demons are commonly called Daitayas or Daityas, meaning descendants of Diti. Dhenukasura, the ass demon, terrorized the Tala forest with his friends, but Sri Krishna and Sri Balaram killed them, just like modern governments kill terrorists who harass innocent people. That was so many years ago, the terrorist term. So here's commentary. Vishwanath writes, though Balaram killed Dhenukasura, in this verse it is said that Krishna, along with Balaram, killed him. This is to give preeminence to Krishna's activities. Rishabha Daitayam is Danakasura. Then again, Vishwanath, though Balaram single-handedly killed Danakasura, the jackass, or Rasabha demon, in this verse it says that Krishna and Balaram killed him. This is to give prominence to Krishna's activities. Jiva Goswami writes, accompanied by Balaram, he killed Dhanuka. This shows that he was predominant in the killing of Dhanuka, even though Balaram actually killed him. In this verse, Krishna is said to have killed Dhanuka because Balaram's strength arose from Krishna's strength. He made the forest safe without fear so that all the fruits could be enjoyed. And that's it for the commentaries. So this is these verses 7, 8, 9, and 10. We covered 4 verses. It's part of the 9 that are recounting Krishna's pastimes that before were just kind of overlooked as something. Somehow it happened. Some demigod or some mystic something, they passed over it somehow. That is, Yogamaya potency allowed them. So this is just repeating some of the earlier messages. Here, that curtain of Yogamaya has been momentarily parted by the astounding Govardhan Leela, and after they've gone back to their homes, because when they were in the midst of the Govardhan Leela, it was Yogamaya all the way. They were with Krishna and experiencing joy and ecstasy and overwhelming happiness, and now they're home and they're reflecting back on what happened and who is he. So this astonishment, is the mood. And hearing this, we're also just hearing a little sound bite, little short message, where the delightful pastimes of Krishna are being recalled to memory, especially if we're a little familiar. It may invite us to go back and read Krishna book, or read the whole canto with the Bhaktivedanta purports, or the purports from the Bhagavatam. And even if we don't, then it's just bringing to memory what we already know, something. We already know something about Krishna's pastimes. Just a little sharing. During this coronavirus thing, different devotees are doing all kinds of different things. And I received word that Rabindra Sarup Prabhu, many of you know him, PhD in philosophy, and most certainly, in my opinion at least, the best writer in our Hare Krishna movement. And knowing what he's absorbed in, because I asked him some time ago, he's absorbed in Bhajana Rahasya, that is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's description of how to enter deeply into the holy name. And he described to me what he's doing, how he's doing that, and he's planning to write a book about it, which I'm very eager to. But he's really slow when he writes. But it's stages. He's memorized, not just memorized, the word for word meaning, because he knows a little bit of Sanskrit. He's absorbing himself in Shikshastaka, because that's what Bhajan or Rahasya does. It's a map of how to go to the stage of Braja Prem, the gift that Lord Chaitanya gave through that map. So he's reciting it, absorbing his... with deep meaning. This is like this discussion that's been exchanged a few times now, mantra upasana. These aren't exactly mantras, they're verses of Lord Chaitanya's instructions, shiksha, in entering into the name. It's all about the name, and then with the name comes everything. Namarupa Guna Lila, and the mood of bhakti, the mood of Braja Prem. So that's the Ravindra Swarup Prabhu that I know, and I was told that during this coronavirus thing, there's online everyday reading from Krishna book. That's what they're doing, and they're in upstate New York. I don't know if they're discussing, but just hearing Krishna book. Combine that with everything else that I said, and I can only imagine for him and for others that like hearing Krishna's pastimes, it's a stimulation for ecstatic love for Krishna, because the potencies are there. And the language is simple, so even new people can tune in and hear and be purified. On the one side, cleansing, chaitadarpana marjanam, cleansing of things. The obstacles on the path of bhakti is Krishna's killing demons, because it's not only killing demons, it's so many things. The focus here in this chapter is killing demons. And certainly that's not all that Krishna did, but the astonishment, or the major feature of their astonishment focus, is killing of demons. Now, not all, like Indra, isn't a demon, although the language here speaks of Indra as an enemy. And Krishna doesn't see friends enemies, but Arjuna did some bad stuff. And so he became inimical toward Krishna, which is demoniac. So he's not a demon, but he was inimical toward Krishna. Who is this upstart little boy interrupting my sacrifice? I'll show him. So Krishna curbed his pride. Krishna stirred his pride deliberately. It was already there and he didn't like it. And so he jacked his pride way up in a way that he knew would work. And sure enough it did, and sure enough so there are many things accomplished, but Indra's pride was curbed, and we're going to hear some more about all of that as Indra comes and speaks. But now it's the Adbhuta Ras. And we sing it every day, Adbhuta Shringa. When Lord Nrsingadev appeared, it was it was the first Hare Krishna skit that I ever saw. I'll tell you, it's just anecdotal because there's not too much to say about these verses. I was visiting a college student, visiting Boston, looking about graduate schools in Boston. The place where I was staying, I was with two other people. They drove, they had some friends, the friends had a loft, and I was given a room way in the back, and on the windowsill were those little Jagannath deities about that big. And at the school where I was, there's a center, and they have Jagannath deities. I just like, I took it as a sign from Krishna, go to the temple. So I went to the temple. I wasn't planning to go to Boston to go to the Hare Krishna temple, but it's like things happened, and I went to the temple. And part of that visit, it was the second day that I went to visit, it was Nrsimha Chaturdasi, and they had a skit. And one of the three principal artists, then the ISKCON Press artist, was Muralidhar. Muralidhar, really tall, and his demeanor was very quiet and creative in his own way. And he would always play the parts. I found this out later. He played the parts of demons because he could like get into it. This creative, quiet person became the demons. So I didn't know anything about the pastime of Lord Nrsingadev's appearance, but like there are these curtains here against the wall. So he was hiding behind the curtain. And when it was time for Nrsingadev to appear, he came out from, we didn't know he was there. He was like well hidden. And he came out, it was like, and very tall, big dark eyebrows, facial expression. He didn't need like, a costume. He was just like, wow. Everyone. Astonishment. So that's part of the Lord's pastime, to induce astonishment in his manner of how he does what he does. So, because the last one was the Vatsa Suradima, this little boy, and the pastime, Krishna understood right away. Balaram was, by Krishna's arrangement, not recognizing, covered by his Yogamaya potency, and he was like appreciating, oh, this nice boy. Krishna leaned over and said, it's not a nice boy, that's a demon. It's something like the deer and Maricha. But, so, Krishna knew. And the Vatsa was looking for an opportunity to attack both. And Balaram is known to be really strong. He was like more cautious about Balaram than Krishna. So Krishna grabbed him at the right time and by his hind legs, and we're hearing by his hind legs and his tail, and by centrifugal force he lost the soul left the body, and then this gigantic demon, and the gigantic demon twirling around and tossing him in the tree, and the trees knocking other trees and the kapita fruits because Krishna wanted to play. One of the boys, and they're, yay, let's play. And then when the boys go home, because this would be a regular routine, when the parents of these boys would receive their boys back home, they'd want to hear Krishna's pastimes while he was out herding the cows, because there's always something. We're given principal demons, and at least our acharyas say, twice a day, around 11 o'clock and around 4 o'clock, some demon would appear. Because if the demon didn't appear, they skipped their lunch because they were having a great time just being with Krishna. So when the demon was killed, it was assigned time for lunch. And when the second demon was killed, it's time to go home. So we're hearing the principal ones, but we can understand Kamsa had a whole bunch of buddies, and they had mystic powers, and they did different things, but some of the prominent ones, or the main prominent ones, and we hear them again and hear them again. But it's just so that the parents of the boys would want to hear, and the boys would say what Krishna did. And it was, how wonderful is Krishna. They didn't make a big deal about it. How wonderful is Krishna. What did he do today? Because their madhurya feature, whatever the rasa is, was so strong, they just loved him. And he would do something wonderful, and it just inspired their love for him more and more. The Govardhan Lila is special. Not only what he did, but as we've been reading, the arrangement was made by Krishna to pull back the curtain so they could take a closer look at how wonderful is Krishna, and then give them this opportunity to remember very deeply once again. So we've been discussing this. Danger has its negative feelings, and danger for a devotee gives rise, it's an impetus for thinking more deeply and shelter taking more deeply. Some people live their lives risking their life all the time. They like it. It's like their adrenaline rush is their life. They don't want a boring life, they want a risky life. There's different ways of describing that. But this is different. This is the shelter of the resident of Vrindavan is Krishna, and Krishna would churn that emotion sometimes with difficulties and dangers, and Krishna. So then Krishna would come. He'd create a calamity and then relieve the calamity. Not only in Vrindavan, the Pandavas, etc., Queen Kunti and the Pandavas, calamity after calamity, and then Krishna would resolve the calamity. Durvasa Muni coming. I mean, it was inspired by Duryodhana. You know the Mahabharata episode? Durvasa Muni came to Hastinapur, and everyone was, oh, Durvasa Muni, watch out. But Duryodhana had a plan, because he knew that the partial incarnation of Lord Shiva is easily pleased as well as easily angered. So he served him very nicely and did everything very nicely, and at the end, much as he predicted, Durvasa Muni offered him a benediction. He said, I don't need anything, but I have some cousins, they're off in the forest, why don't you go visit them? And it was timed so that by the time he would reach them, Duryodhana knew that the Draupadi's pot would be empty. And then Durvasa Muni would be angered because he was traveling, and it was a calculated, I don't need to get them, Durvasa Muni will get them, by angering Durvasa Muni because they couldn't feed him. But how did that happen? Where did he get that intelligence? Where does anybody get anything? Krishna inspired him to do that, and Krishna inspired the whole thing. It's a pastime. So the calamity came, and Krishna solved the calamity. Because Draupadi just turned to Krishna. She had no other recourse. Krishna came, made the arrangement. Durvasa Muni left. The calamity. Now these are elevated devotees, and we're not elevated devotees, but difficulties come, and it helps us to understand in our relationship with Krishna, which worldly people are not so well connected with, and even neophyte devotees we're not so well connected with. We have a notion, but everyone has a breaking point. We have our limitation. Like, okay, and then there's a threshold, and then when the threshold passes, yikes, and remembrance of Krishna goes out the window, and it can be different ranges. So Krishna, we discussed this yesterday, Krishna may put us through like some extreme difficulty, and then even with prayer, the difficulty doesn't seem to go away. There was some discussion about this. That was the evening, 2 evenings ago. He's not an order supplier. He knows what he's doing, and the devotee has trust in Krishna. Faith, shelter. And shelter doesn't mean we won't have pain, and we won't die, we won't get sick, we won't this and we won't that. It doesn't mean that. Krishna's protection doesn't mean that. But it can mean all kinds of things, how its shape comes, but ultimately it's protecting the soul and the soul's connection with Krishna, and the eventual, however, quick or slow, removal of ignorance and restoring our relationship with Krishna. That's the protection. Kaunteya pratijanihi name bhakta vinashati. And vinashati is having our bhakti destroyed. We had this discussion. Bhakti may be, through difficulty, may get challenged and may appear to weaken. But the big picture is, it's meant to strengthen our bhakti. And Krishna knows. So let's see if there's some discussion. You have?
I have question.
Okay.
Gurumaharaj, you're explaining about the 11 o'clock there's one demon, and then 4 o'clock there's one demon that will be killed and they'll go for lunch and one. So how would that play thing will break in the original Goloka Vrindavan, not in the earthly realm?
I don't know. Next.
Thank you, Prabhu. Maharaj, you were describing about like hearing the holy name, and then there is one enters like Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela.
Yes.
Is there more description about like how it feels, like what is one experience when they're going more and more deeper in the holy name?
I couldn't understand your question. Your voice is soft. The sound system is not the best, and I'm half deaf. So the combination.
So, is there more description of?
Is there more description
Of the Nama, Rupa, Guna,
Is there more
Leela?
description of that sequence?
Yeah, like what does one experience when?
What does somebody experience?
Right.
Well, sure. That phrase specifically is found in Harinam Chintamani. It's spoken of in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs. the subjective experience of that sequence, I'm sure that there's some explanation. I can't think specifically. There's a nice reference I recently read from Bhaktisiddhanta, and I think I sent it out. He uses, but it's not exactly what you're asking. He describes that the chanting of the holy name, when it's performed without offense, acts to efface, because it's like not a common word that we use in our English vocabulary, but he knew the word. Efface both the gross and the subtle body. Now, what efface means is, a dictionary definition of efface is like coins rubbing against other coins, and the date that's on the coin after some time becomes effaced. You can't distinguish it anymore by the rubbing of the coins with other coins. And eventually, gone. You can't distinguish it at all. So that's what this term efface is, gradual rubbing together of two things, and then the distinguishing marks become gone. So his language is, Bhaktisiddhanta's language is, as the gross and subtle body become effaced, then the self as a spiritual entity can be realized. So his sequence is, experience-wise, which is your question, it starts with understanding who we are with a spiritual conception of who we are, as opposed to the body or the subtle body conception of who we are, because we're absorbed in those two, in all kinds of variations. And then, he says, one can, from that position, one can then begin to understand the form of Krishna, so nama rupa. And from the form of Krishna, then the rest. He doesn't add the rest, but it's just, it's a sequence that starts with not just notionally accepting, because we all notionally accept we're spirit soul, but we're not functioning at a conscious level like that in the manner that we could, should, would, if we absorbed in chanting without offense over time. So his point specifically is, it's gradual, like effacing, the wearing away of the date on a coin doesn't happen overnight, it's gradual. So however long, when that effacing of gross and subtle body, it doesn't mean that you don't have one anymore, but its influence is diminished and it's unrecognizable anymore because consciousness is elsewhere. Self-realization, the form of Krishna realization, and then in sequence is activities. I think you're going to have to do some, if you want to know more about the question you asked, you have to do your own reading rather than, most likely there's references from both Bhaktisiddhanta and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Anything?
Maharaj, actually, like this is a question that has been on my mind for a long time. I have heard from some devotees that while chanting, it's important that we feel something.
It's important that we do what?
That we feel something.
See. Feel something.
Yeah. Like the description...
You shared this with me already.
Yeah, the description that they have, like I have heard from some devotees, is some people feel a peace of mind. Some people feel like fearless when they chant. So as a sadhaka, like like what is to be expected when we chant the holy name? Like what should be our in one sense, what can be our inspiration?
What can we do what?
What can be our inspiration?
What can be our inspiration? Well, when you wrote that to me, I was also thinking some more about it. Now you're asking it in a class. Supposing you're Brijbasi and you're calling Krishna's name. Now, what's important is that there may be abundant variety of feelings using our common, language. In japa retreats, there's highs and lows, there's hills and there's valleys when chanting. But even when they're in the valley, there's a feeling. So the aspiration or target or goal is to be connected with Krishna. And that connection with Krishna has with it a feeling. It's not just separate from Krishna feeling, it's in relation to Krishna. So the aspiration, this is me, not these other people. In your relationship with Krishna, there's a feeling. It may be, oh, I'm so fallen. That's a feeling. But not just like beat yourself up feeling, but a feeling in relation to Krishna. Kanchana Vali, that Mataji that wrote this book, Crying for Krishna. We show the images connected. In her book, it's not with images, it's just sayings. But anyway, so that's a feeling. Crying for Krishna is a feeling. So it's not peace or fearlessness, it's whatever it is. It's a yearning. That's a feeling. During this, if we have it, this thing is supposed to happen the 4th of July. Let's see what's going on. If we have it, the theme is going to be yearning. Why? So yes, say yes to the name. Yearning, that's a feeling. Enthusiasm, that's a feeling. And S, spontaneous, that's a feeling. And then, but it can be all kinds of yearning and joy and yearning and, I'm so fallen. Your question is, what's a model to aspire for? Aspire for being connected to Krishna again, being in your relationship with Krishna again, and it's all variegated. Some others besides the persons who you're hearing from, one that comes to mind is Niranjan Maharaj, and that's a theme that he speaks about, is chant with feeling. You've heard me speak about it. Supposing you say, oh, I don't have any feelings. Well, that's a feeling. And chant with that feeling. Be in touch, introspective, but not just a feeling that's floating around, but in connection with Krishna. With feeling. Because that's the heart. So alignment of body, mind, and heart. And the heart can be, feeling disconnected. I'm feeling disconnected from my heart. And that means disconnected from Krishna. Yearning is I wish to be again with the feeling of being connected to Krishna, even if it's far away. It's the heart. Alignment. Theme. Okay?
Guru Maharaj, this question is from Archana Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Is there any significance of demons coming at a particular time of the day and not any other odd times like night or early morning?
Everything's orchestrated by Krishna's internal potency. So that's the significance. As mentioned, the cowherd boys are so absorbed that they would just forget lunch and they forget going home because they're so absorbed. So that's the significance. Krishna would arrange. So one can only imagine if it happened every day, that when, it's kind of like 11 o'clock, hey, which demon is coming today? But they were so absorbed that who knows what they were thinking. They were just playing. They were just boys off together doing what boys do together. Go ahead.
This question is from Shari Mataji. Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Did Krishna had a schedule what activities he does with his friends while he was in Vrindavan, or pastimes happened just as per his desire?
I couldn't follow. What did Krishna do while he's off in the forest? There's abundant description in the Bhagavatam and Krishna book. Is that her question?
It's more similar, did Krishna had any schedule?
And any schedule? Yeah, Ashtakalya Leela, that's the schedule. Eightfold pastimes during different time of the day. He was really regulated. He was reciprocating with different devotees in different moods at different times of the day, suitable for the time of the day. So, could you do me a favor, when you read these, don't read this preamble that says, Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, or whatever it is. Just the question. Thanks.
This question from Sri Radhika Mataji. It seems to me that there are some parts of Bhagavatam that requires a very analytical frame of mind to comprehend. And then there are Madhurya Leelas like the one you discussed.
Okay.
How to make a non-believer of Krishna, in braces, God in personal form, brace close, believe in Krishna and make him chant the holy name and follow scriptures?
Gosh. Let me go back to the previous one. The analytical behind just like Sankhya philosophy is analytical, but there's a mood behind the analytical. And the mood behind the analytical is seeing the connection of all things with the source of all things. The purpose, done properly or with completion, it's not just analytical, it's how does this puzzle piece fit together with that puzzle piece fit together with make the big picture. And the big picture is everything comes from a person. Everything comes from one source, and that one source is a person who's like amazing. That's the even if one doesn't understand how this puzzle piece fits together with that puzzle piece, step back and look at the big puzzle when it's put together, and it's meant, described specifically by Shukadeva Goswami, that it's meant to help persons that are atheistic to develop a theistic conception, the transitioning from atheism to theism by Virat Rupa, and so many different ways of describing the same entity. And the descriptions appear quite different, but it's the same entity seen from different perspectives. And that there's a purpose behind it. It's not just sharpen your analytical capacity. It's awaken the tendency for the one who has forgotten the source of all things, consciousness of the source of all things, and how the things that you see and perceive are connected to that source, ultimately a person. But it's a step in that direction of theism. Now, this other question, second question, it's by the process of Krishna consciousness. Gosh, how do you help somebody that doesn't know Krishna consciousness and doesn't want to know Krishna consciousness to want to know Krishna consciousness? I mean, this was, I give the microphone to Leela Manjari because she was describing it yesterday evening. What Prabhupada has done is he's turned people upside down. And how did he do it? By his purity and by sound, and by his perfect example. So that's how we're not a perfect person, but we have the message of the perfect person and the message of the Bhagavatam, and so we speak it, we live it, we broadcast it, we distribute it with faith that that sound vibration can turn things around. So then we have to be empowered and gifted and discriminating about this person, this may be beneficial and effective, and that person, something else, may be beneficial and effective. So we may have different strategies, but the principle is quite the same. Model for the world a life of devotion. Carry it in your heart and take inspiration from Supersoul how to best convey this to different audiences. And different audiences have different needs and will respond in a different way. So just be tuned into audiences by the gift of Supersoul. But it starts with purity. By our own, that purity is by our taking up the bhakti process in a submissive, proper, and enthusiastic way. And then relying on Supersoul for how to convey that to others using these principles.
There is addition from Sri Radhika Mataji, where our intelligence might not serve us well.
I didn't get it. Where intelligence?
Where our intelligence might not serve us well.
Where our intelligence and mind may not serve us well?
For it is limited and material.
For what? It's limited and material. Yeah. So what are you going to do? Is that the question?
That's it.
Given that we have limited intelligence and mind, what to do? That's the question? Well, we have to work with what we have been given. And we engage in the elevation and cleansing process, both. So the sadhana bhakti process is meant to cleanse or relieve the limitedness, because the limitedness has to do with coverings. So cleanse and become elevated. That's what we do. And so according to our capacity, that's what we do with ourselves, and then extend whatever it is that we can to others, knowing that it's limited due to our coverings. But we receive something, we want to share that something, knowing that it's less than perfect and limited. And by that method, trying to be Krishna's instrument, he gives us greater strength and greater purity and greater elevation of consciousness. This is the Sankirtan movement of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Anyone can take part. That's what we do.
This question from Sunita Mataji. What are some of the impersonal behaviors we should be aware of in the day-to-day dealings?
The Western countries are filled with impersonalism. What are some of our impersonalisms that we should be wary of? That's the question? Aware of. And I would assume to be aware of means you try to avoid it. Be wary of. I said, be wary of. Get on the other side of those tendencies. Yes? That's what the question is?
That's all, Maharsh.
It's just saying, identify them. What are they? That's all that's being asked. It's like it's pervasive. I'm looking on the other side of the room, and there's a cabinet where musical instruments are kept. So impersonal is, just the training that we have received since childhood, which is all there is matter and the laws that govern matter, and the purpose of matter is to satisfy my desires. That's impersonal. So that's what it's for, is to put things away. And we have to put a sign up to tell people, make sure you put stuff away, because people are, lazy and inconsiderate. So, but it has a higher purpose, and that higher purpose is personal, in relation to the person who those musical instruments are meant to be used for. That's just, it's pervasive. It's not seeing. Personal means to see things, objects, in relation to the source of those objects, and thus what they're meant for. They're meant for service to the source of those objects. That's personal. Bhakti is personal. It's not just, to be a good devotee, you have to put the musical instruments away. If you don't put the musical instruments away, you're not a good devotee. That's a behavior. And that's not personal. Bhakti is, for whom are you putting the musical instruments away? And what's the purpose of that thing over there, that cabinet? It's, there was a time when there wasn't a cabinet. Then somebody got the bright idea, hey, let's get a cabinet. So, it's for Krishna's service. It's not just, it is for keeping things neat and clean. For what purpose? The personalism is for the pleasure of Krishna, and it's pervasive in all features. So whatever it is that we do, and the choices that we make, and how we speak, and where we go and where we don't go, and so forth, it's for the pleasure of Krishna. Purpose. That's personal. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.